Just like he said, the monster was passed on. Only took a glance for me to know he wasn't gone.
The Founding Titan, the monster that Kenny saw in Uri's eyes. Frieda, although trying, didn't manage to fight the spirit of her ancestors. And with that, the vow to renounce war came into effect once more. Welcome back, Titan fans, and thank you so much for joining me today. Now be honest, how much time did you spend trying to understand this magical vow? Well, in my case, it was way too much. But seriously, this is indeed one of the most important things in our story. It is so important that most of the logic of the story is based on it. But still, we never got any kind of definite explanation about it, besides being the vow taken by the king and somehow transferred to the next inheritor. When I first read Kruger's explanation, I have to say, it made me angry. Mostly because I couldn't make any sense out of it back then. Attack on Titan may not be purely scientific, but it does have a specific set of rules that we all understand. But this vow was something that we haven't seen before. I couldn't compare it to anything, and therefore I couldn't understand it. But all of that changed when I started to look at everything from a different angle. So today we're going to talk all about that. And yes, I will give you my explanation for the vow to renounce war and how it really works. Remember, this video is only my own idea and interpretation, but like every one of my videos, I will bring you proof and logical explanations to support everything. And by the end of this video, I believe I will convince some of you. And even if I don't, I still hope you will appreciate the twist and different angle I took here. I really try my best to bring you original and unique videos to my channel, and I wanted to take a moment to thank you all for watching, following and supporting me for all this time. So if you appreciate my content and you also want to support me and my channel, please don't forget to subscribe, like and share my videos with your friends. And with that, let's dive into our video, and in order to understand the vow to renounce war, we first need to understand a few characters better, starting with the man that took it. So let's try to get a general look at the character of Karl Fritz. He was responsible for the downfall of Eldia. He was called a traitor and a coward. And he was the person who created the walls. He is the older of the Founding Titan. And also he made some magical secret vow that jumps from user to user, making them accept the king's ideology. He was the first king inside the walls and also the 145th monarch of old Eldia. In addition, he also took a major part in ending the war. Karl Fritz has been the bad guy in the eyes of many sides in this conflict. He was ashamed of the history of Eldia, and therefore he decided to betray Eldia and to migrate to Paradise. Not to mention, he also ordered killing people that opposed him, including the Asian clan and the Ackermans inside the walls. All of this in order to maintain his paradise. But there are some things people don't give him enough credit for. First, out of the chain of 144 kings before him, he was the only one that decided to make a change. Going against the flow is always hard, and some will say it actually makes you look brave. He went against traditions of generations before him in order to pursue his own beliefs. And he had a will strong enough to act on his beliefs and to migrate to Paradise. These are not the traits of a coward, these are the actions of a revolutionist. A person that wanted to make a change and did everything in his power in order to achieve it. Just like many after him, including Kruger, Grisha, Tom, Eren, Reiner, and many more. Only his act was on a bigger scale. That is of course until recent events with Eren. We can also assume Karl Fritz was a wise man. The fact that he was actually able to pull this plan off under the noses of other families in Eldia shows sophistication and great logistic skills. And the fact that Izuru and so many others came to the island with him just shows that he had good diplomatic skills as well. After 13 years, Karl Fritz died and transferred the founder to the next in line. Only now the Titan arrived with a fun little surprise, the vow to renounce war, compelling the user to fall in line with Karl Fritz's ideology, and according to Grisha, also prevents them from using the full power of the Founding Titan. That made Karl Fritz to be the last user to ever wield the true power of the Founding Titan. So we can say that he wasn't a coward or a fool, he was a leader that can make hard decisions. And also, he probably was extremely powerful. But that's all we know for now, so in order to try and understand his vow better, let's explore the people that were affected by it. It's all in the eyes. We all know by now the eyes of the shifters affected by the vow. and we can see it in Rod's and Uri's father as well, when he refused to remove the Titan threat from the world. After him, Uri, who promised to stay true to himself, also fell down to the vow. And after him, also Frieda, that promised she would not surrender to their ancestors' will, but in the end, like all others, she was too affected by it. From the little we know, Uri Reiss was a very gentle and kind person, and also an extremely reasonable one. He was immediately able to understand and contain Kenny's anger, and diffuse the situation almost immediately when he bowed before him. Their story started with his display of power, and ended in what I consider to be one of the most beautiful friendships in our story. As Uri said, he never really understood how two people on a course to destroy each other can finally become good friends, and he tried to find the answer to this his entire life. Uri was fascinated with his relationship with Kenny, and they are the perfect example of how two different people from entirely different worlds that also should hate each other finally become friends. Uri died when giving his power after 13 years to the next in line, Frieda Reiss. Like Uri, Frieda seemed to be a very kind and likable person, and like Kenny said, once he saw her eyes, he immediately noticed the monster that was inside Uri as well. And just like Uri, she continued to preach about love and peace after inheriting it. But unlike Uri, Frieda always seemed more depressed. We could see it in Historia's story, how Frieda was nice and kind one moment, but the next moment her personality changed as if she was a different person. We also got a manga-only scene when she yelled at Historia to not cross the fence. This was absent from the anime for a good reason, more on that soon. And finally, Frieda lost her life and the founding titan to Grisha after having it only around 3 years. Rod explained that Frieda didn't have the full control over Titan yet, and that is the reason why she couldn't use its full power. As Kenny said, Rod didn't know much about Titans, but he was pretty close on this one, and you will soon see why. And now, after we explored all of this, let's talk about the vow to renounce war. The first thing we need to understand is the definition of the word vow. A vow is a solemn promise, which literally means it's a formal and dignified promise. A vow is a personal promise that a person takes, and it's usually a promise with a significant weight behind it. For example, you don't take a vow to brush your teeth, but you do take a vow to not kill or hurt people. You take a vow to save lives, to not tell a lie, to join or to not join the fight, and so on. A vow is something personal, and you cannot take a vow on behalf of someone else. You also can't force a vow on someone, because that won't be personal, formal, or dignified, so by definition, it won't be a vow. Another kind of vow with a more religious aspect is a transaction between a person and a supernatural god or goddess. In that case, a vow takes the form of a contract between the person and the Supreme Being, when the person devotes something valuable to the Supreme Being. But the vow in our case makes the holder of the founding titan take the ideology of King Fritz. That is strange, and we don't know exactly how it works. But what makes it even stranger is the information we got from Grisha in chapter 121. Grisha told us that the vow not only makes the user accept the ideology of the king, but in addition it makes them unaware of certain things, and also not be able to use the power to its full extent. For me, all those things didn't look like a magical vow. To me, it looked more like the mind manipulation power of the founding titan. So let's get into the fun part as we jump back to Uri and Kenny. Kenny's best friend once said, "This world is going to end soon, and in humanity's dying hours, I wanted to create a paradise." Some of you might have noticed that this sentence is pretty strange. I mean, who is talking right now? And what if I told you that the person talking is not actually Uri Reiss? Yes, because this, my friend, is not Uri Reiss. This is the 145th monarch of Eldia, and also the first king inside the walls. This is Karl Fritz. Not his will or ideology that comes out randomly. This is Karl Fritz's essence, mind and soul that takes over the user's body over the 13 years time duration. And don't worry, I will show you more examples as we go on, but this is not a magical vow. This is King Fritz moving from shifter to shifter while using the power of the founding titan to keep certain information hidden from the current holder, while probably erasing their memories when they are in control of their body. Just like the Attack Titan, who is always moving forward, has finally found Eren who shared his ideology, the same was with Karl Fritz and the Founding Titan that somehow created a contract between them. A contract to send the king's soul to the new vessel instead of sending him to a trip to the paths. And if I'm being poetic, one Titan with a view to the past, and the other towards the future. One is the beginning, and the other is the end. One is the Alpha, and the other is the Omega. So this is actually Karl Fritz's incarnation inside a different body. Two souls occupying the same vessel. Only one of them is more powerful, and probably getting stronger as the 13 years duration goes on. This is the reason we see Uri as Karl Fritz all the time, while Frieda still has moments of herself while with Historia. This is because Frieda has the power for around only 3 years now, so my guess is that the presence of the King's Soul just keeps on growing as time goes on. There are actually a lot of examples in anime that uses the same technique. One example is Elizabeth in the 7 Deadly Sins, also literally every servant summoned in the Fate series. And there are plenty more, but a more current and probably more relatable example is what's currently going on in Jujutsu Kaisen between Yuji Itadori and the King of Curses, Sukuna. In their situation, both occupy the same body and they switch between them. But when Sukuna is out, the body or vessel becomes much more powerful than when Yuji controls it, just like King Fritz. Also, Yuji sometimes doesn't remember certain conversation he had with Sukuna, while it seems that Sukuna is always aware of everything. The same with Frieda, not having the full access to the power and memories of the Founding Titan, and when they switch, we tell them apart especially by their eyes, but also by their personality and the way they speak. And that is what I believe is going on in Attack on Titan as well. When King Fritz is in control, he has the full power of the founder, but he chooses not to use it. Not because of a magical vow, but simply because this is actually him, and this is the vow that he himself took. When the shifter is in control, they get to be themselves, and also access some of the power, but apparently not all of it. And we can confirm that by Frieda's reaction to Grisha. And in reality, it is pretty likely that the holders don't even know that the other soul is occupying their body, because as I mentioned, the king can manipulate their minds. This also can be a nice answer for why the holders seems to grow old faster than the other shifters. Although I cannot prove this using science, I think most of us can agree that having two souls in one body is probably not a good thing, at least not for the body. When we talk about souls in literature, they are usually considered to be very powerful, and I can imagine the human body is not designed for having two sets of them. That kind of stress is probably what causing their body to deteriorate faster, crumbling from the inside, from the huge and unusual power that is inside it. If we look at all the conversation Uri and Kenny had, we can clearly see that he is talking in the first person, as Karl Fritz, and not as Uri. Not only when preaching, but also in private conversation when the vow shouldn't even come into effect. He told Kenny that he tried to build this paradise, but the person who built it was Karl Fritz. He also told him that all of his life he questioned how they became friends. This in fact was the question that Karl Fritz himself could never answer, and that was the reason he came to Paradise. That is also why he was so fascinated with the relationship he had with Kenny. He also never referred to Rod as his brother. Instead, he told Kenny that the power will be transferred to Rod's children, which is not how a family member usually addresses other family members. And when he said he will live on in their dreams, we could see him smile. And we also have this strange text from Kruger that says the vow made them take their own life. But I believe the translation was just bad, and it probably meant to say give up on their soul, so if you read the Japanese version, please let me know if I'm right. Karl also said a very important thing. He said that in the future this world will be destroyed. But we are going to explore this further in a few minutes, and that will take this theory to the next level of insanity. Trust me. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and to turn on all notifications to not miss any of my insane future videos. We talked about Uri, but what about Frieda? Why is she so sad and depressed? I believe this is one of the times they switch between them. This is why she is like this, probably conflicted and confused from having another presence inside her head. That was also the reason why she acted like a different person, because she was a different person in that specific moment. And just like she erased Historia's memories, King Fritz probably erased heirs as well. The fact that King Fritz's soul and presence were not strong enough at that time is one possible reason for why Earth Titan lost. And if it was King Fritz in control, maybe things would have been different. But for that, and for what Uri said about the future, I have a different and more outrageous idea. So check this out. If we analyze what Uri said here, in the future this world will end, and in humanity's final moments I wanted to create a paradise. By paradise he means the walls and paradise, and by this world he actually means the outside world. The king knew something is coming, and that is also why he told Kenny that he can't die just yet, simply because he needed to die over and over again in order to keep his vow. And in a way, maybe this was his personal punishment. So now that everyone here are confused and possibly slightly mad at me and my wild ideas, it's time to take the insanity to a higher level, just like I promised. Let's jump to the cave with Grisha and Frieda. Of course, also here we can see the different shifts in personalities between Frieda and King Fritz. Here, Frieda closes her eyes. Here comes out Karl Fritz. And here, this is Frieda again. And you can see that they talk differently. The tragedy of the Titan War has made me realize. We all can understand that this is not Frieda talking. These are Karl Fritz's words. So here comes the fun part. At this moment, there are actually two founding titans here. One with Frieda, and the other with Eren. This is what I think happened here. The moment Grisha talked about the power of the founding titan, Frieda was confused, but unlike her, that triggered Karl Fritz. He was genuinely surprised at how Grisha has this information, if it is only known to Karl Fritz himself. How could this alien from outside the walls know his secret? And then Eren showed his presence while talking to his father. And at that moment, Karl Fritz, the holder of the true power of the founding titan, could actually see Eren. How? Because it's the power of the founding titan that brought them there, so I can only assume the founding titan can see it too. Hearing Grisha's story about knowing the future and also seeing the founding titan with Eren made King Fritz finally realize. This was the retaliation that he was waiting for all those years. It just came from a different direction than he expected. But seeing his power with future Eren made the king understand that there is a reason for why his power is now in the hands of someone else. And if it happened, then it probably should have happened. And if it did happen, he understood that he himself probably let it happen. And just like Eren followed his future memories, so did Karl Fritz. He decided this is his time to die, to let the founding titan find his way across time to the user he now sees before him. So he didn't lend his power to Frieda for that reason. And that is also why she looks so terrified in the last panel, unlike how she was just a few moments ago. By not lending his power, he actually also died without breaking his vow. He died without fighting back, just like he always promised. And his vow was never broken. And that is the true reason why Frieda lost on that day. At least that is a more interesting way to look at it, you have to admit. So how could Grisha see Zeke a moment after? Simple, he had the founding titan now. And just like King Fritz saw Eren, Grisha now saw Zeke, who was standing right in front of him. And I do believe that if Eren stood next to him, then Grisha would have noticed him as well. And another similar thing is Eren not showing Grisha all the memories. Just like Karl Fritz didn't show all of his memories to the other users. So where is Karl Fritz's soul now? Possibly dormant inside Eren. This is at least my preference because it means that Eren has another personality inside of him, a devil and an angel in the same body, and you will decide which is which. But if the king's soul moved on to the paths, then there is a very good chance we will get to see his titan in the final manga chapters. And that was my theory about the vow to renounce war, King Fritz, Uri, Frieda, and actually much more. And yes, I know that was a long and messy video, so I really admire and appreciate you for sticking around. I really hope you enjoyed my crazy idea just as much as I enjoyed talking about it. And even if it doesn't turn out to be right, remember, this is only a theory and a fun way for me to give you some alternative ways to look at our story. I really hope you enjoyed, and thank you again for joining me today. Don't forget to come and visit me on any of my social media accounts. I will place all the links in the video description. And that is all for today, my Titan loving friends. I will see you all real soon, and until then, don't forget to dedicate your hearts to humanity, inside and outside the walls.